Alrighty, good morning everybody, or afternoon, depending on where you reside. My name is Michael Echave. I'm an AEC technical specialist here at ATG USA. And today we're going to be doing a Q&A on Bluebeam Revu Studio as a whole. Within Studio, you have Studio projects and Studio sessions. And today is geared in around talking about both, answering any questions you have with live demonstration, and walking you through those processes. So Studio is a cloud stored system combined with online collaboration platform that acts as a virtual plan that allows project partners to manage documents, review, and markup in real time. If you've been using Studio and need some guidance, this is the perfect time for you to ask your questions. And also, if we don't have a ton of questions, we will be running through of what Studio is and be talking about Studio sessions and Studio projects. Okay, so as we enter in Bluebeam Revu Studio here, sorry, I did not have my screen on. So as we go and enter into Bluebeam Revu Studio here, we see this area on the panel axis on the left and panel axis on the right. And now as we click on the actual panel here, let's say if we didn't see the Studio session here, right here, we go over to the session over here and we see Studio right here. So within the panel axis, you can see and show which ones you want to have, or you can hit Alt-C. So from in here, you have the ability to go in and sign in. And if you haven't signed in yet, or you haven't created a Bluebeam ID, you can do it from this interface. I have mine created, but if you haven't created one, you can go in here and create one. And I recommend you do your name, last name, and your display name as a professional display name. Do not make it like Batman or something. This is a professional environment here. We are providing this to the clients if we're communicating back and forth. So let's make sure that that display name is going to reflect on something that we're going to be doing for commenting. And this is primarily for the commenting session within Bluebeam Studio sessions. So as I go back over here to sign in, I'm going to sign into my account here. All right, so if I had a session started, for those of us that have seen sessions and those of us that haven't seen sessions, I will talk you through it in a second. Let's start off with the people that are asking the first questions here. So if I've started, let's say this demo session here, and I'm entering in my session, and let's say I have some comments here on this PDF, which I have a ton of comments from doing sessions before and talking people through them as well. Now down below, we have our markups list. And within our markups list, we can actually export or import custom comments or comments that we made before. So within here, what I would do is probably utilize the export feature by saving this out somewhere, by going and maybe downloading it or saving it as. And maybe we have our documents area that we have assigned for it, or a location that we have designated for it. And I would save it here. And once it's been saved, I would then go up to File, Open, and open it from here. And it's no longer in my session. It's actually just open natively, as you guys can see. When I had it open in my session, I'll show you the two different ones. You can see that it has the same exact session icon. This one is not opened from there. So I can go through here and I could export my comments. From there, I would then open up the one that I'm going to upload up to my Studio and import my comments into there and then bring it into my Studio itself. So that answers Jeff's questions first. Now let's go on to Andrews. In a Studio session, is there a way to create a folder structure to organize multiple documents? Not so far. You can alphabetically or by date of added. There isn't an item like, let's say, a Studio project where you can organize in features in terms of folders within an embedded folder. Currently, no. So maybe if you had a larger document, you might want to combine them and bring it into a structure like that. Monica, just not used. Okay, yep. Monica, yep, it definitely is a little bit different. The interface is completely different from 2017 to 2018. But on the left side here, you have your panel access area, and also on the right, and also with panels, for those of you that haven't been utilizing Bluebeam Revu as a whole, these can be drug out to a separate screen. You guys can't see my separate screen currently, but if I wanted to, within panels, they can be drug out to a separate screen. but your toolbars can only stay within the interface themselves. Scrolling down. Yes, Chris, this does work across the iPad app. So within the studio session that I have here, I have my iPad actually open. I can log in and we'll go over here and see my iPad, which is Joe Demo here. And you guys can see that it's currently offline right here. 1 second, let me log into my studio here. I have the iPad app. And for those of us that haven't used studio sessions or studio projects before, if you have studio sessions and let's say you wanted to invite a third party or a contractor or some other discipline that needs to have access to these documents, I have the paid version, as you guys can see here. I have a licensed version. This is me. But on my iPad, I actually have the free version. So if you were working with a client that doesn't actually have access to Bluebeam Revu, they don't have a paid license, you can send them an invite. They'll get an email and it'll tell them they can download the 30-day free trial. After that, Bluebeam Revu changes into view mode itself. And within view mode, you still have access when you're in a session to all the markup tools themselves. So again, me, Joe Demo, I have the free version right now on my iPad. And now I'm going to go over here and log in, and I'm going to make a comment so we can see. Make sure I'm on the right PDF here. And I'm going to make a cloud over in the right side. As you guys can see, I just made it. Some notifications are happening. Joe Demo is now not offline. Joe Demo is working on a sheet here and telling me what sheet I'm working on. And as you can see down here in the records list, I've made this sheet edit here, which is a cloud. All right, let's see. One more second. Let's scroll down and see if they had a question. Yes, Monica asked how we can start a session. There was a question about a slip sheet. We're not currently going over slip sheets today, but if you want, I can email you separately and talk to you about slip sheets if you do have a question about that. Yes, so at the end, there will be a time where you see my email and you can email any of the questions that I didn't answer today. Slip sheet, we're not going to be covering. So if you want to email me at the end, you can definitely email me at the end and talk to me about slip sheets. I will be taking some time today to answer those emails right after the session. So feel free to email me right after the webinar. All right, so there was a question about creating a session. So let's talk about sessions as a whole. For those of us that have not used Studio Sessions so far, how can this help out our time and need right now? Maybe we're working remotely. Maybe we have files that need to be brought over or saved somewhere, so we have access to them anywhere, anytime. So introduction to Studio as a whole. Bluebeam Studio is a powerful solution for document collaboration, allowing you to manage your products digitally from start to finish, anywhere at any time at a desktop, a tablet PC, or an iPad. Now within Studio projects, you can store an unlimited amount of number of PDFs. You can manage across the project collaborators, and then within Studio Sessions, you can collaborate in real time with project collaborators around the world, marking up the same 2D or 3D PDFs together. Bluebeam Studio includes both projects and sessions, and it is included in free with every license of Revu you purchase. There is no additional charge for any of the functionality that it contains. I always recommend people take a snapshot of this one right here so you can kind of understand the difference between the two. What are their limitations? What do the two different ones have, and what does one not have? So within Studio Sessions, you have collaborators can work on the same PDF simultaneously. Collaborators do not need to be online at the same time. And participant limit for each session is 500 people. File limit is 5,000 PDFs and up to 1 GB each for those PDFs themselves. File types are PDFs only, 2D or 3D PDFs supported. Now, Studio Projects is a one person at a time editing document. Document management system. Participant limit is unlimited, but it is a check-in, check-out basis is what we'll talk about as well. And your file limit is unlimited, any size. And file types are any. Let me make sure I have my chat open on the left side here. Make sure no one's asking any questions. All righty. Now let's hop right back into Studio here. So for those of us that are new, I will close this back out, and maybe we're new to the interface as a whole. Let me give myself some window space here. So as you guys see, the top bar here is more the menu items. Then we have some toolbars right below it. And then usually we have the dynamic toolbar as well if we have like a markup selected or anything like that that populates. And over on the right, we can also dock some tools or markup tools if we wanted to as well. And then we have our panel access bars. And right now I'm currently, if you guys see this review drop down up here and you go to profiles, I'm currently in my review advanced profile. So within here, we have our profiles that actually associate the view that we want to see. It actually has a tool saved to a certain way. It has our panel access saved to a certain way. So as I change to review, you can see now I don't even have any markups up here at the top in terms of tools, right? So if I go back to profiles and I switch back to review advanced, and maybe we all should be on review advanced if we're following along with me. Again, you're going to go to the top left area here. We're going to go to profiles and we're going to go to review advanced. Everyone should have the review advanced profile because it's natively held within our download of Bluebeam Review. I'm working currently in Bluebeam Review 2019, and I believe my edition is 2.1, I believe. Yeah, 2019.1.15 is what I'm currently on. And if I go again to my profiles here, I have Review Advanced. Now within Review Advanced here, I have my panel access that already has my studio available. If I right click over here, because I do not see this lovely little studio over here, I can go and say show, and I can see studio right here. I can click on here and have it show, or I can click Alt-C. From this point forward, as I click it or select it, I should have the ability to sign in because I haven't signed in so far. Now I can click sign in and I can create a Bluebeam Review ID. So for those of us that haven't created one, I will give you a couple seconds here to actually select it and create one. And then we will move forward into sessions and talk about how session works. So you signed in, hopefully you've confirmed that email. You have two different options up here at the top. Just like you saw earlier in the PowerPoint, you saw that you had projects that looks like this icon. It kind of looks like a board with some writing on it. And this one I like to say looks like the old chalkboard they used to flip over so you can get to the other side because you had a long type of equation or something that you were writing out. So this is what I like to say. It's an old whiteboard that you can move around. So in 2010, was the release date of Studio Sessions, and it was first collaboration tool solution that focused primarily on the integrity of the document, allowing authors of its markups to retain that information that they're putting in rather than screen sharing. So as we go into here, we want to create a session maybe. Maybe this is our first time, we're working remotely now and we need to collaborate with other people on a PDF, either a 2D PDF or 3D PDF as well. Either or works, and we need to create a session here, right? So maybe that's the question that we're having asked right now. So within sessions, I've selected it, and I see my lovely screen right here. Now this maintains our connection, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Maybe we're out in the field and we don't have connection currently, and we need to get some type of connection to the internet, but we want to make our markups. So we make our markups, and then later on we connect to the internet so it publishes all of our markups. But right now we're going to create a session. So this lovely little add button, I can do one of two things. I can join a session. Maybe they gave me an ID that I had to join to, or I can do the new session itself. So right now let's create a new session here, and I'm going to name it Q and A. For all of us to maybe join if some of you wanted to join and kind of see how the interaction works. So as I type in Q&A here, I can also add files from this interface here. So let me add a file here. I should have some documents here that we can maybe have mark up. And I'm going to hit open. So a lot of the questions I always get is, Mike, what happens when I upload this document? Is it saving it somewhere? Where is that document living? So it's actually creating a copy of the document wherever it is, file location wise, and bringing it into Studio Sessions, okay? So that document that you're marking up in sessions is not having a connection to where it is on your network or your file management area and File Explorer. This is a new copy somewhere else being marked up. You do have to save it out when you're done, okay? Now you can set some general permissions here if you wanted to, and you can also restrict attendees by email. I'm not going to currently do that because maybe you all want to jump in and see how this works. But if you jump in right now, at some point, please do not comment because I don't want to see 32 comments, which is how many people we have currently in here. Don't want to see that many. Let's just have you jump in if you decided to, and we'll kind of run along and maybe pick some people out that want to make a comment, one or two, okay? But for the permissions here, they can save as, can they print, can they mark up alert, can they add a document, okay? Also, you can set a session expiration date maybe if you wanted to. Maybe that allows for you to automatically finish the session at a specified date and time. After your expiration, attendees will be blocked from re-entering in that session because, hey, this is a time you were supposed to come in and mark up this document that I have, and it's going to expire by this point in time. It helps control the comments that are made in the most recent revision, and attendees cannot have access to the expired session, but you as the administrator, you as the one creating this session, can also reactivate it and allow people to rejoin the session if you wanted to. But right now, I'm not going to restrict by attendees by email addresses because I don't have all your email addresses, and I want you to maybe jump in and check out the session, okay? So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to create it. And now you guys can see that's been created. For those of us that haven't created it, let's have you actually join it as well. So right where I was at, how I said I could create a new session by the plus icon, let's have you actually hit join a session. Look at Eric's already on the fly with that. So you can join the session by ID. So if you want to type in this top ID, you do not need to have the dashes, and you're not typing in the name, just the numbers. So if you want to type in the numbers and actually join the session, feel free to do so. Now you'll be in the session. So as you see people starting to roll through as attendees, you can see notifications that are populating and are pending. These are people that are joining the session currently. So as you guys see this interface, and for those of you that are using Studio Sessions and are joining in just to come along and help out and see how it all works out, for those of us that haven't or are new to it, what is this icon here? So this is the session invitation dialog box that populates after you've created a new session. So from right here, I could invite people by email if I wanted to, or maybe you have your address book, which I do. I have the Outlook address book here already synced, so I could invite people by email from here if I wanted to as well. I could also copy an invitation and maybe paste in, email it out, and I can also add an optional message if I wanted to as well. So I'm going to hit cancel from here. Now I'm going to see my interface. What's happening over here? So I have my Studio Panel toolbar, which is from this area right here, that allows you to have some options. Maybe I wanted to go to some additional settings, or maybe I wanted to leave the session and just step out the door. Then right below, I have my attendees list. Below that, I have my documents list. And then even below that, I have my activities list, which is going to have a running record. All right, so now as I see people, they're still have joined in. This is great. What's happening, right? What is going on in my session as a whole? So right here, as people have joined in, I can see what document they are in. So we are all in the same document here, and I can start marking it up at the same time as anyone else. So let's have Eric, who joined first, make a markup. Some notifications happened here. And he made a text box somewhere as well. And I could see it, it's right here. So all I had to do was click it because I couldn't see it at first. It brought me to where it was at. Now I can see that this wall needs to move east. Okay, so if I selected this comment over here, I do not have the ability to change any of the items within this comment. I have my lovely little dynamic properties panel up here that's populated that usually have the ability to go in here and change some items with it. I do not have that ability. The only person that has the ability to actually make changes to their markup is the person that owns the markup themselves. So as I've selected my markup here, and those of us that have joined the session will see a running record report of what's taking place, I can also see now I have my ability to change my markups. So you do not have the ability to edit anyone else's markups, but you can filter out if you wanted to publish maybe later on how and what shows in terms of markups. Maybe I do not want to see other collaborators' markups, but only my own. But do know that you do not have the ability to edit anyone else's markups and vice versa. They do not have the ability to edit your markups either. So as we see, Eric decided to move his text box or make some additional changes to it. I can also chat Eric. Maybe I want to say, Eric, what does this comment mean? So down here in the bottom left, I have the ability to chat Eric. Keep in mind, again, this is a professional environment, and this is a running record report of my comments. So if someone wanted to print out a report, they would see every comment that was made in its entirety, okay? Maybe I wanted to alert. So Eric, let's have you alert. And in order to alert somebody of a markup, all I have to do is select the markup that I want to alert it to. I right click, and I want a particular attendee to notice my comments here. So I'm going to hit OK. And now I've alerted him, and I'm going to have him do the exact same thing to me to show you all what happens. So as you guys can see, there's some notifications happening here, a pending item, but oh, in notifications here, I have an alerted text box. So maybe I actually need to address what's happening here in this location. So now that I've actually had an indication and someone's alerted me of this text box here, now I know something's happening. Well, also, hey, is there a way for me to just follow what Eric's doing on a day-to-day basis? Yes, I can follow attendee. So in my attendees list here, I can right click and I can say follow attendee. So Eric, let's have you start making some more markups and show what does that mean. If I'm following somebody, as you guys can see here, I can see his mouse moving as he's starting to click in certain locations. So he added a line here and it's alerting me at every point that he's doing and making. So I'm following the attendee just as they're drawing items and placing items or markups within my actual PDF here. So you do have that ability to follow as they're going along, as they're clicking. Looks like he's adding some text here. So see, as I'm following along here, I have this indication that's pointing out to where he's going. So again, that's right clicking on the attendees list. I could also say follow, or maybe I want to filter markups themselves. So you have these different abilities to go through and do some line items if you wanted to. And maybe you want to select their markups. Who knows? I've selected all of their markups. I can see what they're doing within those markups as well. So these are just some additional items or options that we have within a session themselves. How can we communicate still virtually with other people as they're making markups, as they're going through, and as we're having that separate environments? Do we still have that integrity of, hey, you place the markups, I'm not worried about someone going over and changing them? Or, hey, I want to follow an attendee here that's actually making markups so I can see what's happening in real time. Now let's say if some of us made some markups and we were offline. So what would happen if I'm offline? See, as you guys can see, I'm still following Eric over here as he's making some changes or moving around. But if I wanted to, I could also work offline. You can always go up here to the top right area and deselect it, which would then create a red connection. And everything in every markup that you're making offline will always be in this pending area here. And when I want to reconnect, it'll go immediately to your record report and upload them to everyone that has access. Where is the red light, green light option for addressing a red line? In terms of, is it going to change like a status? You mean like they've addressed it? Is that your question? All right, so we have some other people making some lovely little record reports here. Undo, they're scaling it, they're setting a scale. So Monica, just like we had before, we do have the ability to set statuses. So within here, maybe I have an accepted status, and that accepted status that we've created, right, in terms of how that status was done, in the settings of the statuses themselves, and maybe changed or opened or closed, or maybe we've created the status for themselves. Just be aware, you still have all of these options down here, but be aware that you cannot create custom columns in a session. They should be done prior. So as you guys can see here, I do not have the custom columns options here, right? So in the markups list, if I wanted to create a custom column, I'd go to columns. From there, I'd go to manage, and then I would see a custom columns bar here. But I still have the access to all of my columns that were natively done on the PDF themselves, or maybe saved to the profile, right? Because we have those options. So again, you do have those options to go through and maybe see some of them and change them if you wanted to. All right, so we still have people playing around here, which is great. We can see these pending items. We can see the comments list. And let's say we wanted to print out a report. We want to have the PDFs and a record report of these instances and things that have changed. So I can go down here to this report area. I'm going to close down my markups list so I have more real estate. It almost looks exactly like the markups list here. If I click it, I can go over here and I can have 3 different options. I can create a record report, a PDF package report, or combined files report. So right now, I'm just going to do a PDF package report, which also comes with the record summary report here. I can decide what title I want to have with it or a note, and maybe include an attendees list, maybe a document list as well, and a filtered record item. And what columns do I want to include as well from my markups list, right? So I'm going to hit OK. And from here, I can save it to a location if I wanted to. I'm going to actually just save it to my desktop and do a Q&A report, which is great, so I can remember it. And now we can see my record report here. So as you guys see my record report here, I have documents. So these are all of the documents that were taking place at the time that I created a record. So as I go in here, I can see my documents, or I can see the report of which everyone has created as well. So again, this is what I was talking about, the record report and what you chat. It's going to be a running record report of everything that happens and what took place. So as I go in here, I can maybe select a markup that someone made. And again, it's appended to my lovely little markups list here. So any markup that I've created, I can go in and see where that markup was placed. Add another question. So as a session, is there a way to modify the actual PDF in the session without deleting and replacing the PDF themselves? Modify it in which way? Are we trying to cut content maybe? Is that your question of modifying it? Because again, we're creating a separate item here, and maybe if we wanted to do, who knows, PDF content, and I wanted to cut this content here, right? I still have the ability to edit it, right? I've never done that, Zach. That's a great question. So maybe if I go to here, do I still have the ability to rotate it was his question. Maybe I wanted to rotate, add pages, open files, and let's see. Let me hit exit out of here real quick. I want to make sure I'm in the actual session, not in that live one. Let's see. These are the only options I have, Zach. Another question was, can I filter items? Like maybe I don't want to see anything but Cloud Pluses. I still have those options in my markups list down below, and I can filter these out as well. Alrighty, so now that we've all messed around and edited some items within our studio session here, just for trial and error, Maybe I don't want anyone else to have any ability. So I can go to settings here and I can go to permissions, and maybe I don't want to have any of the attendees to have access to markups. All they can do right now is print and no more markups. They can save as if they wanted to. So now no one has any access to placing any markups except for what I allow them to do, right? So in my settings up here, when I went to the item of Q&A, I hit the drop down, I had my attendees list and I had permissions. So maybe I want certain people to only have certain permissions. So I can go in here, I've denied everyone, that means all of my attendees here access, all they can do is print and save. But if I wanted to, I can do particulars. Maybe I have certain people within here, and I want this person to only have access to certain documents, right? So I'll allow this person to actually add documents here. I'll allow them to have markup alert. So now this one person, all other attendees except for Leah, has the ability to do all these other options. I can also set up maybe groups like subs, and I can add certain members to those groups as well, so that running forward, I don't have to worry about going through here and picking particular people. I can just go here in the future and just select the groups that I have already pre-created, which was the groups item here. And then I added members from here as well. You can also restrict attendees by email. So maybe I do not want anyone else joining in. I want to restrict attendees by certain emails that I've selected. Eric asked a good question. So let's say this markup was been completed and we no longer want this one, but we do want to keep it just in case. What I would do is I'd create a running record report of everything that took place within that document. I would come in here, I would delete it, and I would upload the newest sheet that has been created, maybe a new printout or something like that. So when I go in here and I want to actually create maybe a PDF summary report, someone was asking, and I want to only see a certain attendee's comments. So we can go in here later on when I close out the session, and I'll show you exactly what that'll look like at the end, and maybe you want to just have a certain person's session. Eric, that was a question earlier that was asked by Zach. Is there a way to maybe edit sheets, right? Maybe this is a 30-page document set here and only sheet 1, 2, and 3 got edited. If I go over here to my thumbnails area, I do not have any options in terms of maybe importing or inserting my sheets, right? Even when I go to documents up here, those items are no longer available. So you cannot go in from this point and change out maybe certain sheets. But you can do that natively in Revu, right? So if I go and open up a set here, maybe, and I have my specification sheet here, 1 second. Natively in Revu, we do have those options, right? So maybe if I wanted to replace or insert certain items here, I can do that and then save that set out, because maybe we want to have that set saved somewhere for our own records, and then bring it into a sessions where we're going to collaborate on that session, right? Maybe that would be our workflow, because we want to have ours natively saved somewhere anyways. So we'll do that first, and then we'll upload it up to the session once we've done our own background check behind it. All righty, let's say we've ended our session. Anyone else have any questions about sessions before we go on to projects? So I'm going to kick everybody out and show you guys how that works.
I had a quick question. How do I change my attendee nickname and spell out my name? Is there a way to do that once I sign up?
Yes, a great question. I can shoot you a how-to for that. I believe, I forget where I had it saved. I know it's somewhere, but you'd have to go into your profile to change that wherever you create it, because maybe you created it prior, right? And you didn't like the name that you've associated to that Bluebeam.
Yeah, I just did it today, and
Okay.
then I signed in. And yeah, all right, I'll do that. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, of course. Thank you, Patrick. And maybe, so Patrick had the question about your Bluebeam ID, but maybe you natively in Revu do not like your naming that it's been placed as well. So if you go up to preferences, this is not associated to your Bluebeam ID. This is completely different. But if you wanted to go to user, right, you see mine is Echave. So anytime I create a comment, It's different from here because it's my actual Bluebeam ID. But if I was in my session itself or maybe making a comment somewhere else, that's not in my Bluebeam ID because that's where we're at. But if I was over here, let's say, and I had my document open from recents, and I created a comment here. And I have this comment, this is what the association would be for that. Alrighty, so back to our Bluebeam session. So no one else had any questions, so I'm going to close out my session. We're done for the day. You have two different options. Me as an admin, I see this. For those folks that are not the admin and do not have admin rights, you only see leave session. But for those of us that are creating sessions, maybe out in the field, we're trying to coordinate and collaborate virtually, what do these two icons mean? So leaving a session means you actually just step out the door and you can come back in, right? So I'm just walking out the door, maybe to go get a glass of cup or coffee, I can come back in. That is what leave means. I can step out the door and re-enter in. Finish means you completely close out the session, okay? So if you've completely closed out the session, this is exactly what happens. You have an actual report item for it. So this is where you can include markups if you wanted to. Maybe I only wanted to see markups that I made, and maybe I do not want to see any markups of anyone else's. I also want to have my save options. I'm going to save into a folder in a location. I'm going to do my desktop. And from here, my session subfolder, maybe if I wanted to create one, or do I not want to save the files? Do I want to close the files after finishing? And then as we did earlier, our record report, right? Remember that down here, I can go in and change the settings for that as well. Do I want to just have a record summary report or do I want to have a PDF package? Combined files report means that it's going to take that sheet and combine everything into one sheet. And again, I have some options here as well. And I'm just going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit OK from there. So now everyone should see that there is no longer the ability to have this session. I'm going to hit OK. So no one should have this session now in their sessions if they go into their studio sessions. They've been eliminated from it. So in order to go back, and let's say, hey, Mike, I've created a session. How long does this stay active on their servers, right? So if you finish a session, after 120 days, a finished session will be permanently deleted from the server. So you have 120 days to go back and reactivate it. An inactive session, after 180 days of inactivity, a session will be permanently deleted from the server as well. So if this is inactive, not having anything happen within 180 days, it's going to be removed. If I finish the session, which we just did and we saw, I have 120 days to go back and reactivate it if I wanted to. And hey, Mike, how do I reactivate that? You're going to go to your studio.bluebeam.com. And from here, I can sign in. And right here, I can see all of my inactive sessions, things that I've closed out, okay? So what happened here? Status was deleted, type open, or is it restricted? How was that set up prior? And from here, I have the ability to see what sessions I wanted. And maybe I want to reactivate it as well. And what documents were in it? What were the attendees? Who did I restrict the attendees from? What was the chat maybe that happened? Maybe reassign ownership to someone else. And here's where I have my profile and my default name, which is, I believe, Patrick is who asked that question. So maybe I want to change that to something else. Anyone have any questions about that? So Patrick, the way to get this is studio.bluebeam.com. Once you're in there, you can sign right in, and you'll have access to that. All right, does anyone else have any more questions about Bluebeam Review Studio as a whole? Feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat. All righty, let's move forward to Studio Projects, where we can store any file type and have an unlimited amount of access anywhere, anytime. Yes, Brett asked do we get a recording after this? Yes, you will be emailed a recording after this of the actual webinar and questions that took place. Again, this is a Q&A, but I am going to go through, since there hasn't been too many questions, and give you a beginner's look at how these options work in terms of studio sessions and studio projects. All right, so let me bring this down here. And let's go to our studio projects, which is the other icon that we have here. So as you guys can see here, I do have some already selected or already created projects, but maybe I want to create some projects just from the start. So I've left my session, I've closed it out, right? And now I want to start a project. So from here, I'm going to go in and create a project. I can click the add button at the top. Maybe I want to do a new project or join a project, right? So just like we talked about with studio sessions, we have the add button where I could have joined one or I could have created one. So right now, I'm just going to go through here and I'm going to add a project. Q and A. And I'm going to hit OK. So it's going to create my project here. And now I'm going to close out my studio panel because I want to have better access to what I'm going to be creating. So within here, I've created my project. You guys can see the ID number, who's the owner of it, who created it, and some statuses, right? And now I'm going to set some settings because I know people are going to start joining it by the ID. So if you want to join the actual session by ID, you are more than welcome to after I hit apply here because I restricted attendees, of course, by email. And I'll let them join the project themselves. If you want to join in, you have more than welcome to join in. And I'm going to start adding some files here. So this is going to be my new file storage, file management, so I can work remotely. I'm going to be at the office. I'm going to upload all of the documents that I want to have access to virtually, right? But this works the same way as studio sessions, okay? It is going to take a copy of whatever document I'm uploading it and store that copy up in the cloud, okay? So then you have access to it anywhere, anytime. But it does not sync to wherever it is on your network, okay? You cannot upload or make the changes and hopefully have it sync to wherever it is. You have to download a copy of whatever changes or whatever you've done to it to your local device, make the changes, maybe re-upload it so you have access to it somewhere else, and then re-download it again, okay? So let's go through here. I'm going to actually add some folders. I'm going to add a folder that is completely uploaded from an access that I have somewhere else, okay? So maybe I want to have some folders here that I already have created in my navigation of Windows, right? So my File Explorer here. I'm going to go to my documents here, and I want to add some sheets. So I'm going to select this folder, and it's going to bring in the sheets here. And it's going to have this lovely little drop down that already has the embedded sheets, just like the same folder structure that I had in File Explorer. And maybe I wanted to add a new embedded folder. How do I do that? You want to make sure you're selected on the folder itself, and you can see your file documents here. And from here, I'm going to add a new subfolder. Maybe I'm going to do images, or let's just do RFIs. And from here, I have created now a new subfolder that's embedded in this folder of sheets. And maybe I want to add some RFIs here, or some other sheets or specification sheets here that we need to update. So now I can go through and maybe add some sheets or I hit folders, sorry. I'm going to add individual files here. I could also drag and drop if I wanted to. I'm currently not going to do that because I want to stay in the interface, but I'm going to add these and open them up here. And now I've created a subfolder within this folder here. So as I drop this down, I can see it. So again, these are any file types that I wanted to. Maybe I wanted to upload a Revit file here. So I could go in and maybe upload a file, and maybe I don't want to have it in my sheets area. I want to actually create a new folder outside of them. So I'm going to go to my Q&A, and now I see my sheets here. I could also go up to the right here and add, but let me just do a new folder. So from here, I've created a new folder, and I want a Revit file here, and I want to upload a file. And from here now, I've uploaded my .rvt file. So as it uploads this, you can see how you can get creative on how you're organizing your PDFs here. So now when I go back into settings, I can see there's a total of 3 users here. What do they have access to? So you have 2 different permissions. You have permissions that are global permissions. What do they have access to? What can they do globally? And then you have folder permissions here, which give you some abilities as well to have. So within these, one second, let me give you a better explanation of these. So you have some settings that you can do per folder, right? So I have my project root, which is everything, and it's read. What read allows you to do is make all of the files in the folder read only for the selected user of the group, okay? So this is, again, globally for all attendees here, as you guys can see. Then you have some other options. You can do inherit from parent, which means a folder takes on the settings of the folder above it. You have hidden, which completely hides the selected folder and its contents from being selected from users or groups. We have read, which we talk about, and then you have read and write, which allows you to select users or groups to view, edit, and upload new documents to the selected folder. It does not let them delete anything from the folder. But read, write, and delete allows the selected user or groups to view, edit, upload, and delete files from the selected folder. Now, project root means, and what it cannot do, it cannot be set to hidden or inherit from parent either. So these are some settings if you wanted to provide for clients. Maybe you wanted to have certain access, you wanted them to have certain access to certain folders, that you can allow that to happen, right? So maybe I wanted anyone that's been having access to it to only read only. So now they can only read my documents. Now, how this works for PDFs, maybe you want to collaborate on PDFs here in a different way than sessions. So how does it work on collaborating with PDFs here? It works as a check-in, check-out basis. So if I wanted to make markups, so maybe Joe can see my markups, you have to check it out. So it works like checking out a book in the library. Let's say the library only had 1 copy of the book. So I can only go in and check out that 1 book, and I have to wait for Joe, or sorry, Joe has to wait for me to check it back in before he can make any comments. But the great thing about Studio Projects is if you've checked it out, you can actually update the server copy so that whoever is looking at it can actually see what you've made comment-wise. So if I wanted to see the second floor reference plan, I could check it out, and then I can open it as well. So as we see here, it has been checked out. This is the icon allowing you to know that your item has been checked out. So if I check it back in, I see a locked icon. So whenever I open up a document here, it's locked, means I'm just in view mode. But if I click up here, I can say check out if no one else has it checked out. And now I can see I have my tools highlighted where I can go in and make some comments if I wanted to. I can mark up however I want natively, allowing me to have access to those markups however I want. But hey, maybe someone's asking or requesting access. Hey, Joe, I want to see what you've worked on so far. Or hey, Mike, I want to see what you've done so far. Can you please update the server copy so I can make sure you're working? Sure. So from here, I can update the server copy. So whoever has it checked out, whoever has it opened from the server copy can see my comments. So I hit save and updating maybe for Joe. So what it's going to do is going to check it in real quick and redo an update, and it's going to allow me to check back out instantly. So now whoever is checking it out or looking at it, Joe can see that it has been updated. Also, conveniently, if someone else had this document checked out, we can see over here that it's been checked out. I currently am the only one that has it checked out, and everyone else only has read access. So we can't test it right now. But if someone else had it checked out, I could see from this icon here, and it would actually show me their email. So then maybe you can shoot them an email. Hey, you have this document checked out. I need to make some updates. Can you please check it back in? So again, this works for your PDFs, 2D and 3D PDFs. If you wanted to check it out, make some comments, check it back in. Let's check it back in. So now again, we're back to our locked icon here, and maybe we want to see the revision history. So we can actually go back and see what changes have been made to this PDF and where have those changes been made. So as I go through here, it was added at this point. It was checked in. Okay, maybe I want to open the revision and see when it was checked in and what happened. There, that comment's gone. So if I wanted to, I could revert this back to the old document as well. It really just depends on what you want to have done for it. So again, I've updated this one for Joe, and maybe I want to restore to the previous version. Now, if you restore your document, it does not undo what has been done. It has brought in this new one, right? So it undid it from here, but it does not undo from here. So if I wanted to go back and open the revision of where that markup was placed, I can still see that that markup was placed here. And if I want to revert back to that one, you do have that ability as well. So again, as you can see here, when I reverted back to the one that had no comments before, I see that it was restored from revision 3. Now let's say I wanted to have this document on my desktop. I can of course right-click it and download from here as well. Maybe I wanted to add this to a session itself. You can also do that. Does anyone have any questions with Studio Project so far? Brett had a question, he couldn't see it. If you can't see the comment, just close out, go back into your session, and you'll be able to see it. If you don't have synchronized set, so set to sync, so it syncs it itself, you may have an issue there, but if you go back in, you might be able to see the comment that I created earlier, which I believe was in my sheets and under second here, and I reverted it, so you may not even see it there either, but as you click it here, you can see it. Rhonda asks, can I see my Revit file here? Can I see what version it was, right? So if I go to my documents here, can I see what version of file it was? So from here, I go to properties, and I currently can't see those options. But if you double click on it, it's going to open up your default Revit document. So you're going to want to anyways, which I would advise, which would be maybe to download it first and save as. For those of us that have CTC tools from ATG USA here, we do have the ability when we have our documents natively saved from CTC tools, we have the ability to see some items with them. So as I go through, I can go to my structural model cleanup here, and I can see my documents here by going to Revit properties. Again, this is from the CTC tools, and this is Revit properties. And I can see some additional options here. I can even open natively from here if I wanted to, what Revit edition I have, okay? I'm gonna close that out. So today we covered Bluebeam Studio projects and studio sessions. If you have any questions, my email is also below. Feel free to shoot me an email if I wasn't able to answer any of your questions. And maybe some of you also have questions on Bluebeam review. Bluebeam drawings. We can answer those as well. If any of you have heard about drawings, it's a free app from Bluebeam. It allows you to view, again, view, not markup. We're talking about viewing documents for easy access, maybe on your iPhone, iPad, and how do I have access to those? If anyone has any questions about that, I can talk to you about that. They ask do they have to have access to download the files? Yes, they won't be able to see the files unless they have Bluebeam Revu installed. If I upload to drawings, can you link them? So uploading to drawings, Chris. So let's talk about drawings. So Bluebeam drawings, let's see here. I'm going to go to the website here. So I have drawings set up here. So if you go to Bluebeam drawings, all the way down at the bottom here, you have the web login. You also have the ability to download it. So let's say you had your app. It is a free app from Bluebeam. I'm going to sign in to your Bluebeam ID is how you have access to it. So I'm going to sign in. And from here, I have access to my documents, my projects that I've created. I can also, from the same interface, create a new project, okay? I can also, up here on the top right, join a project. So if I wanted to join a project, I can also join the project. But let's go to one that I actually have. So I have some documents here that I've created, easy access to my iPhone. Can drawings be linkable? So there is no maintain linked. You're uploading a certain set or whatever set you have currently to a session or to a drawings location. Like right now, for instance, I have it actually set to my iPhone. So it's taken these sheets that I've created and linked them to there, but they're not maintaining a link, meaning, hey, did they update or did they create a revision or something happen for them from there? No, that's something that you would probably want to do within Bluebeam sessions so that you would have studio session allowing you to have instant change of them in terms of being marked up. Again, you can have the free app on your iPad, which is a view mode, allowing you to have that as well. So I'm not going to show any audio, but I want to share my iPhone and show you how that works. Oh, can you click on like a hyperlink? Is that what you're asking, Chris? Yes. Okay. Yep. I will show you. Before I show you my iPhone, which I have my iPhone currently on and brought into this chat here, I'll show you what it looks like on my iPhone versus what we currently have access to, right? So let's say I'm going through the process. I've had a project, right, which is this file share here. I've created my project and I want to upload drawings. So in order for you to be an uploader, you have to have maintenance on your license. You have to have maintenance on your license, and then you have to be assigned to be an uploader. So now I'm assigned to be an uploader on my company license here. I can upload documents. So from here, I can add documents from a project if I had documents or something that I've changed, or I could upload from the computer itself. Once you've done that, you're going to have the ability to review it, and it'll say, do you want to publish it? Then you publish it, okay? Once you've published it, it'll prompt me on my iPhone or iPad, wherever you have drawings installed at, hey, a new set has been uploaded. What do you want to do? Do you want to download the new set or not? Okay, so let's see. Hey, Mike, does the links work? So let me go through here and let me share. I'm going to stop the share on my desktop here, and I'm going to share on my iPhone here. All right, so we have this lovely screen here, and you should be able to see some items here. I'm going to go to drawings. And as you see me logging into drawings, I have access to my drawings here. So this is me working off my iPhone. And I can see that this has been updated a couple times. See how it has the V3? That allows me to know that there's been revisions on these certain sets a certain amount of time. So question was, hey, do I have access to hyperlinked areas? As you can see, as I'm scrolling in here, it is optimized for the iPhone, right? I'm able to see everything I need to. I'm zooming in and out using my 2 fingers. I have an iPhone here. And I can click this selectable link. And it's going to say, do you want to open it? Yes, I want to open it to the area that it says. So I've created hyperlinks to the sheet, not to the actual detail, because I wanted to do a batch item for it. And it doesn't seem to have as much rendering as you guys can see from my iPhone. It's a little bit different through Zoom, it seems. It's not getting as much pixelization, but it is optimized on my iPhone. I can see it perfectly fine. All of my details are coming out correct. So again, this allows me to access these drawings anywhere, anytime that I want to, allowing me again to go in. I can select my links if I want to. I can hit open, and I can go into wherever I need to go to for my details here as well. All right, does anyone have any other questions? Yes, that was done in, so I went to, before I started, I have the ability to do batch link, right? So I went to, that is my file share area here. From here, I went to, let me do this real quick. I went to the location of this file, and it was my Samtec model here. So I went and selected it. I'm gonna hit open, yes. And I can close this out because I don't want to have access to it. I want to not see any of my options here. But as I can see here, I can go in and say check out. And from here, I can go to my, I don't know, whatever sheet I wanted to, right? And I could go through and say, I want to batch link some of these options. I want to add open files, which are the ones that I currently have. And I'm going to select my page region that I want to have. I want to search for everything that says, no, not S1. Let me hit cancel on that. I'm going to select the region I want to be maybe everything on S2.1, right? S2.2. So from here, and you want to select, could it be larger than that? Yes, it could be. So I'm going to go here, and this is where I would select it, and it's going to go through and generate that option for it as well. So I'd go through and say generate. Okay, has some options here. It's going to go through and generate those. Okay. How do you get the drawing projects in the internet browser? So you're saying right here at drawings and link keywords. Any link option, Chris, you had prior is the same link options you'll have because you're assigning it again to the metadata associated to the PDF, which is an ISO standard, the international standard, right? Which is going to be linkable and saved again as if I'm opening up in drawings. Is the batch linking? That's a great question. Let me see. I have a comparison chart here. So let's go, lovely Control F, compare, or what are we doing? Batch link. So yep, batch linking right here, as we can see, is only for extreme version. If you don't have extreme, you can always go through and do individual ones, which is document, tool, sorry, and you can go to hyperlink, and you can hyperlink a certain area and say, I want you to jump to at this location. Edgar's was drawing projects in the internet browser. Yeah, so how do I get the drawings up to here or the projects that I've created? It just depends. If you've created your projects, 1 second, let me go through here. Where's my projects? I think I closed them out. Nope, it's here, okay. So wherever you're at, so if I log into my Bluebeam ID, any project you have joined or you've created will be right here. And again, that's just me. I clicked over on this left side here, and I've seen all of my projects, okay? If you do not have a project, you can join by the ID as well. That then gets you access to it. All righty, thank you all. If you do have any more questions, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is right below.